Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the channel. Figured I'd clip this and put this out on YouTube for people to watch if they want to. I did this yesterday. Pretty long rant on why MMR Reset is a bad idea going into Overwatch 2. There's a ton of talk on Twitter about this right now, so I just wanted to get that out there in front of you. Don't forget to hit that like button if you like what you see. Subscribe if you like what you see. We might do more of this in the future if people like it. Drop comments if you think, otherwise. That you want to talk about that. But figured I'd put this out there, for people who are interested. My credentials are I've worked at PlayStation, Xbox, and now Rockstar Games. I've built MMR systems. I've built online multiplayer systems. I rebuilt the entire PlayStation online multiplayer, experience from the grounds up. So I know this stuff better than most. I'm trained in this. I understand this. So I hope you all enjoy it. Yeah, see you next time. Yeah, fuck it. Let's jump in. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about multiplayer, game design. Let's talk about MMR. Let's talk about what the purpose of MMR is, and all that stuff. So I gotta go to hit this. I gotta go put on display capture. There we go. All right. So MMR and multiplayer game design. Let's start from the very first thing, which is, what is MMR's purpose? Why does MMR exist within a game, like in terms of a multiplayer game? And the MMR system's goal is to enable the game to match make players of equal or close to equal skill in a given game, right? That's the entire goal. Given match. That's the goal of any MMR system being implemented within a game. In sports, this happens in things like the ELO system that exists within chess, or in the stratification of leagues in, say, the Premier League. The Premier League of soccer, or football, as those weird Europeans call it. You have your Premier League, your first division, second division, third division, and essentially a ranking system that determines these players should play against these players should play against these players, because they're of roughly equal skill. And the ultimate goal here being, let me grab my thingy here, like equal or close to equal skill in a given match. Why does that matter? Why is that your goal? Is the next question, right? And the next question, that question could easily be answered by a simple statement, which is unequal games are not fun. Now, some people may gripe at that and say, wait, I love it when I stomp people, and that's theoretically true. But if you think about fun as a calculatable thing, if you think about fun in terms of numbers, you have the amount of fun earned by one team, say this is the winning team, right, versus the fun earned by the losing team, right? And you calculate those numbers, right? Like, imagine this is a graph, right? If you have a game where the winning team absolutely stomps the losing team, it generally looks like this. The team that won had a lot of fun, and the team that got their ass kicked generally has no fun, has negative fun. In a game where you have an evenly matched team, it looks a little bit closer to this, where the winning team has a lot of fun because they won. Negative fun, exactly. When you get stomped, players have what I would consider negative fun, comparative to players who are not. In a game that's closer to equal, you're going to have this, where the losing team has some fun, but not as much fun as the winning team. Now, if your goal is to enable maximum fun per match, right? So if you put this out as maximum fun per match, that is your ideal state as a game designer, which any good game designer, that is your goal, is maximum fun per match. right? That's what you want, because by creating maximum fun per match, you're increasing retention, the amount of players that stick to your game, right, and keep playing it, engagement, players playing more rounds of your game, right? You're going to increase monetization because players are spending more time in your game, and you're going to increase overall player satisfaction, right? All of these things happen when you maximize your fun per match, right? And this is true across every multiplayer game. I'm like speaking about this a little bit in the context of Overwatch, but this is true in every single multiplayer game, right? But there are a couple of key philosophical things there, right, that we've talked about. Unequal games are not fun. You want to maximize your fun. So when you build an MMR system and a matchmaking system to matchmake players of equal or close to equal skill in a given match, so that you can maximize the fun that occurs within that match. Okay? So that's your established base point. That is your goals, what you're trying to accomplish by doing any of this work. Because if you didn't care about these things at all, right, what would you do? You'd have a fucking random number generator that builds random teams. Because if the team compositions of players don't matter, then building random teams is the most efficient way, because then you have zero wait time. That is what Fortnite does. That is what Warzones does, because those games are designed as battle royales. In a battle royale, you have 10,000 people playing in a match, right? And the expectation of winning for that one person is very low. So your fun graph almost never looks like this, because the amount of fun a player can receive from playing in a match is relative to how long they last, which the faster they lose, the faster they get into a new game and have a new chance of fun. So multiplayer games like that are built very differently, and thus don't really require an MMR system in the traditional sense in order to achieve success. So let's talk about the concept now of MMR Reset. MMR Reset. What is the idea of an MMR Reset? Why does this exist as a thing people have talked about and said, you should totally do an MMR Reset? The concept of an MMR Reset is to take the current player's skill level that you know about them and reduce them down to an average and give everybody the same MMR to start with. No matter how much information you have on said player, you will start them at the middle point of what you think the average is, and you'll let everybody duke it out. So why is this a bad idea? And a bad idea in almost every sense of the word. In the idea, so we can start from a position of when a game is first starting out, right? So when a game first starts out on day one of the first day that a game releases. Now, this isn't true because they'll do stuff in betas, but take it theoretical. You have a population where everybody looks like this. So if this is an MMR graph, this is your midpoint here of, say, 1,000. We'll treat 1,000 as the midpoint of an MMR range, right? Doesn't quite work that way, but whatever. You're going to start looking like this, right? And over the course of thousands of matches that players play, potentially millions of matches, depending on how complex your game is, how long it runs, you're going to move from everybody being here to some people being over here, some people being over here, right? And eventually it will steady state out into essentially a normal distribution where some large percentage of your population, we'll call it 70% here, it's probably closer to 80% depending on, again, how your system's implemented, will be within these middle ranks. They will be average players. Now, when I say middle ranks, that doesn't necessarily mean in the sense of, say, an Overwatch game, the gold and platinum border. While they do it that way, not every game balances to end up as the middle ranking that they tell you is the middle ranking to actually be the middle ranking. That's not entirely true how that operates. So cool. You build this distribution over the course of months to potentially years of players playing the game. And we're talking millions and millions of matches occurring for you to stratify your player base like this. This time sucks. It sucks from a game developer perspective, and it sucks from a player perspective. And let me explain to you why that is. Because your goal is fundamentally, like we said, to maximize fun per match. So let's walk back to that original state, right? So that original state where everybody is in this match, right? Everybody is getting match made in the same pool, is all in the same MMR. There's one positive that comes from this, and that positive is games will match make really quickly because guess what? Everybody's the same rank, so it doesn't need to think. It just puts random people into games together. What does that lead to? That leads to severe mismatches in fun. Because the game doesn't know who can make shots better than others. And your population is theoretically, in the case of Overwatch, extremely large. That means you have extreme variation in the skill levels of the player base. Which means you're going to end up in this situation where negative fun exists more than you will this situation where some fun exists for both groups of players. And it's just a fact of random numbers and random number generation. You will end up with more imbalanced games in total because you're basing it off randomness. Especially when you think about a 6-person or 5-person team doing this, you're going to end up in this world. Now, when you think about a game like Overwatch that has existed for years, why do you not want to re-enter this state of the world? Why is it more advantageous for you to stay with the curve that you have, modulo some improvements, and then run it from there versus going back and starting from scratch? Well, the answer is fairly simple. And the answer is based off of the idea that if you already have a distribution that exists for your game. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. You already have a distribution that exists that is fairly accurate in your game, right? Where this is the midpoint. You mostly have it right for players and their skill level. And their skill level being their ability to shoot things, their understanding of the concept of cover, their usage of things like their cooldowns, and how they think about the game in general, right? You have them roughly in the spots where all of that is correlated. With Overwatch 2, the game is essentially the same game as Overwatch 1 modulo 1 tank, right? So while some players may play better in 2 tank versus 1 tank, it is highly unlikely, extremely unlikely that a player who is good right now in Overwatch 1, say they're a GM player in Overwatch 1, is suddenly a bronze player. That's highly unlikely. Damn near impossible for a player of this skill level to be at this skill level when you remove the 1 tank. So instead of ending up in a situation where you have let's throw everybody in one big pot and see what happens, where it may take months for it to shake out, by using the MMR that you already have, you are guaranteeing that players of roughly a similar skill level can play together. And you will be closer to the ideal of having more fun per match from the moment the game starts and releases. In the case where you were to squish this together, that GM player will play against bronze players. And here's the thing, there you could actually even see it. I think it was Flats that said it on Twitter. Let me see. Like Flats on Twitter said something about like bronze players in his. Like, he was saying, I don't want to play with bronze players in the beta anymore. I can't find it, whatever. But Flats was right. He was playing with lower tier players because there wasn't a big enough population, and there was not an MMR that was enabling them to get the stratification that they wanted to in that environment. And so, like, I played games against Only Legs and Metro in the beta. Was that fun for them? Was it fun for me? Not really. They stomped, which they were going to stomp anyway, and I had almost no fun. And that was my first experience with Overwatch 2. This leads me to kind of the last point with this, and that is brand new players coming to the game. When you bring brand new players to the game, let me get another page here to doodle on. When you have brand new players come and join the game, you have amazing risk for them to be to have a bad experience and leave the game. If you think about it within the lens of the data that I've seen in the past, which is I'll just type this. Why am I drawing? This is the data I have seen from multiple game developers. If a player loses their first competitive match, 50% of the time, a new player, let me be very clear. A new player loses their first competitive match. 50% of the time, they don't play a single additional match. Think about that for a second. Think about that from a game designer perspective, a game developer perspective. I'm releasing this multiplayer game. I'm putting it out into the world. I want to maximize the amount of people who have fun and play my game. If a new player loses their first competitive match, and this includes quick play in the sense of Overwatch, this would include quick play. 50% of the time, they don't play a single additional match. Mathematically, what does that tell you? That tells you if you have 100 new players, 50% of those, or 50 of them will win, and half of those people, 25, will never play another game. Which means that you only achieved 75 players continuing to play the game. And that is, some of these 50 will also churn eventually. Definitely, of the winners. Like, you're in a world where losing that first match absolutely sucks for those brand new players because they just quit. Like, I can tell you this from experience. I was playing League of Legends the other day with some friends. I was new to the game. I lost my first game of League that I played against people, and I almost uninstalled the game because I was so frustrated that I just got my butt kicked. That's how it operates. When people have negative fun, they quit playing the game. And if they lose, and they lose significantly, which most people will in a world where you have a very stratified, like you put everybody into the MMR reset, you're going to have more opportunity for players to leave your game. So when you have those new players, so let's look about why am I bad at drawing a normal distribution? There it is. So we have a normal distribution here. Say this is 1,000 for the MMR. This is the average. What some developers do is they will take a brand new player, right? And they will put them right here. Right in the average spot, right? This sucks because this is an average player. This sucks really hard for things like long-running games like Overwatch. If you drop a brand new player you've never seen before into this rank for their first game, they are more than likely to lose because they don't know enough about the game. If you put them, say, here, you have a chance for this player who is new to have a good first experience by winning their game, because you've put them now below average because you're expecting them to not know what they're doing, right? And this is why when you roll a new account in Overwatch, your first match that you play, when you hit 25 and you go into, well, they have a little bit of data from you from the 25. So, all right, the way Overwatch does it, they have you play 25 levels worth of unranked games before you can play ranked. They determine your MMR during that time, but you'll notice for those first quick play games you play on a brand new fresh account, you're playing against absolute scrubs. You're playing against silvers and bronzes. The reason why they do that is they want you to have a good first experience, and they don't want to throw you in with the sharks right away. So in the context of an MMR reset, say you're releasing Overwatch 2, brand new game, and you put everybody at the same MMR to start because you don't have another option. It's all been reset down to that. Now you're putting GM players in lobbies with players who are literally brand new to the game. How do you think that goes? The answer is extremely poorly. Not only from the amount of fun context, because that GM player is not going to have fun. That brand new player is not going to have fun. And that brand new player is highly likely to quit the game. You don't want that to occur, right? So by keeping your MMR that you've spent, 4 to 6 years developing, your graph, your distribution of players that is reasonably accurate, is the right play. Now, what is this last little bit here, which is what they said in their post, which I think Nick posted inside. Let me just look this up. It's in this one. They said a new decay system. Why are they doing that? Because they know if there's a player who hasn't touched the game in, say, 3 years, that player 3 years ago may have been up here or here or here. If they have not touched the game in that amount of time, they have gotten worse at the game. Not necessarily because they physically have gotten worse, but the population of the game has gotten better because the population has continued to play. So what they're going to do is they're going to take their normal distributions that they have, right, from their MMR system, and they're going to take players who haven't played in a while, and instead of starting them, say, a player that, was GM up here, right, when they quit playing 3 years ago, instead of starting them there, they're going to start them here, right? Now, GM, that might be a stretch to say they'll go down to an average MMR, but they'll do that. They will dump that player down a significant portion because they're trying to maximize fun. And if they put a GM player that hasn't played in 3 years into lobbies with current GM players, they would most likely get absolutely gobsmacked because they haven't been playing the game and others have learned it and grown from there. So there is no positive that I can see with doing an MMR reset other than reducing queue times and making queue times really fast for all players. But what you trade for queue times, you're trading a quality of match, and that's generally the trade-off within a matchmaking system. And so, yeah, I don't prescribe to the idea of doing an MMR reset, if you could tell. There are players who are sitting in fucking plat right now who are like, I don't deserve to be in plat. Well, win more games. That's all I can tell you. And if you're like, well, there's, my teammates are holding me back. No, they're not. They're not. On average, over the course of a given sample of games, say you play 1,000 matches, the average skill of the player on your team will be roughly even compared to the amount of skill that's on the other team. It's just a fact. Your 5 teammates are just as likely to be good and or bad as the 5 to 6 people on the other team. The only constant in all of those games is yourself. Elo hell doesn't exist over a long enough period. It can happen for a while. You could end up in a situation where you get bad luck. You get a lot of teammates that suck over the course of, say, a month, and it's weighted against you. That'll happen. But then the next month, you'll probably see a more average teammate roster, and then the next month you're going to see maybe a more advantageous team rosters on your team. The only constant is yourself. The MMR system is not what's keeping you down. The ELO system is not what's keeping you down. You are what's keeping you down. You're either not hitting enough shots, you're either not hitting enough sleep darts or abilities, or you're positioning incorrectly, or you're not helping your team. There's a lot of different things that could keep you in the rank that you are, at a lower rank than you think you deserve to be. But the system is not wrong. It just isn't. Better players will go up the rankings. There's a reason why GM players do those, unranked to GM playthroughs. Why is that? Because they're good enough. And once you're good enough, you will carry enough games. You will not even carry. You will have positive impact in enough games that you will ultimately get to the correct rank with enough games played. But that's my rant on this. I don't know if you guys have any questions that you'd like me to go into about MMR matchmaking, MMR reset, those sorts of things. I'd be more than glad to answer any questions anybody has. But that is my rant from a game design and game production perspective. If not, I might clip this and put this up on YouTube for people who might be interested in watching this at a later date. But yeah, it's an interesting topic. I think all game design stuff is, but I just wanted to kind of cover that. So thank you for listening to me.